Let's start the video. Alright. It is Ricardo Regresso back yet again. And yes, in this video, I'm gonna be doing a review of a recent flick that I in the cinema in Mexico City. It was possibly one of the best live action Disney movies I've seen in a long time. That is Cruella de Vil. Really like watching Cruella because if people don't know, I'm a big Disney fan. You know what I mean? Like introduction to Disney for me was the Aladdin, the original Aladdin animated film that came around the time I was born, like the early 90s. And from watching the Aladdin film, I became such a huge, fan. I always remember the intro to the Walt Disney shows, like, the blue screen and the white silhouette. So around that time, like when Aladdin came out, I also watched the Goofy movie. I actually had the VHS cassette, like one of the greatest celebrities ever, Powerline, animated like version of like Michael Jackson, and I believe they combined Prince, some of like the best entertainers. So Goofy movie. And just around the same time, Pixar were working on their first animated film, You Got a Friend in Me, Toy Story. Disney for me, because I'm a 90s baby, I really paid attention from everything from the early 90s to like this current state, because I just saw the flick like this past weekend. That's the ticket I got from Mexico City. It's Cinepolis, so I saw this like in downtown. I'm gonna keep this ticket for my local Ciudad de Mexico, to watch Cruella. The first thought that came in my mind was, the song Cruella de Vil. I had never really like followed the story of, Cruella de Vil, but I always knew her from like the 101 Dalmatians. I didn't know the story too well, when I was first like introduced to the 100 Dalmatians. It possibly was the 1996 film 101 Dalmatians. I remember one viewing of it, seeing it, I believe it was in school. They brought it in for like this kind of Christmas, kind of films, other Christmas films. I remember watching it back when I was in elementary, primary school. Cruella de Vil is a woman who's greedy, who has like vanity, and is 100% completely only obsessed with her. She only cares about herself. Probably one of the most iconic characters in the Disney history. This review is a spoiler review. So if anyone doesn't want to know about this, start watching like right now, horror right now. The thing that really got me into this film was the insight of like how UK is, for me who's been kind of lived it. Areas in that place where I was working close by. It was in the same areas where like Cruella first like starts on the grind, when she's working as a cleaner. I was probably working not too far from that place, so there's a lot of like relatability with this film. Start off talking about it, like this film is a prequel, so it's an origin story to Cruella de Vil, because I think not up till now there's never been a how she became this iconic character, how she got like the the hair, how she became like this kind of sinister and like vain character, up until not even in the animation, the 50s, that's when she was created. when I saw the you know, because I remember when I was going, I always saw like the big, you know, poster, because I think that really entices and really attracts people to go see this flick. I just really love seeing a split of, like, you see Emma Stone's face and she's got the split of the black hair on one side and the hair on the white side, and I didn't even have to see the title and I was like, oh, this is Cruella de Vil, you know what I mean? I wonder what they're gonna do with this film. You got Emma Stone playing, like, you know, the main character of Cruella. The main, like, film's antagonist is Emma Thompson playing the Baroness. I saw her like as an actual kind of vile character. Like, I cannot wait till someone takes this piece of trash out, you know what I mean? Like, it's the classification of a bitch in this. Even if it's an actor and actress, you always see them in like roles of, they're like a hero, they're like a, you know, positive role model, and they flip it and they turn to the dark side. That is Emma Thompson in this movie playing the Baroness, man. And the supporting characters, you have Joel Fry in Jasper, has like the two henchmen, you know, Horace and Jasper, you know, as you see in the animated films, you know. So in this one, I believe in the original one, Hugh Laurie played Joel Fry's character, you know, the tall one. Playing Horace, Paul Walter Hauser really balances, like, you know, the kind of witty comedy sense and the times that are very, like, you know, sad, kind of somber moments, you know, dramatic. Like, he's very much like that tension breaker, you know, very reliable, independent. The three of them, from when they meet, you know, Cruella, Jasper, and Horace, you know what I mean? I think the chemistry is like really spot on. We also have Mark Strong in this, you know, who don't know, they played in Shazam. He played as Dr. Savannah, you know, he's real, like, stiff, like, English, you know, like Jason Statham, you know, and his performance is like very stellar in this. And you also have Kavan Novak, you know, he appears in this as the lawyer. This film really starts from the beginning, you know, like, you know, the first scene you see in this film is like when she's just being given birth, you know what I mean? But you see like her early days of like going into school. In the scenes when she goes to school, she's someone who was like, they automatically saw her as someone who was different. And when you're different and you're a kid, you're automatically seen as a freak or a weirdo or a misfit, you know. So you have early scenes where she automatically takes this kind of like, guys, like, I've got to really stand up for myself, because if I don't do this, people will be taking advantage for me, especially when I get older, you know. Hence how she is later on. So you see her like get into fights, you know. You see her always meeting like the headmaster of the school in merry old England. You know, so there's times like she keeps getting sent to the headmaster, you know, and even it gets to a point where the mother comes in, Estella, that's her name, Estella, when she's young, and the head teacher's about to expel her, but the mother withdraws her from the school, you know, but which is pretty much the same, you know, the expel, withdraw, she can't go to school anymore. From the area they are in England, when she actually gets expelled from the school, her mother decides to, you know, move to London. Before they actually made their way there, they actually stopped to the Baroness, you know, played by Emma Thompson's character. So she has this big, you know, lavish ball with the most like very important people, you know, in London, UK, you know, and she doesn't really tell like, Stella like you know, why they're there, you know. She just like kind of keeps it to herself, and she just tells like, you know, Stella, please stay in the car, you know, because she parks right in front of them. So, you know, Estella's mother, she goes to meet the Baroness, you know. There's this it's greatly shot, you know what I mean? Like when you see it, you know, you see the big Baroness like, you know, mansion, you know, almost looks like this kind of fortress, and there they can see like the ocean, like the sea, you know, and it's wonderfully shot at night, you know. So like the mother goes to the Baroness, you know, to ask, oh, you know, it's not said, like we as the viewers can't hear it, but he's asking for like financial aid, but it shows it from the perspective of like Estella defies like the mother's like wishes to stay in the car. She actually sneaks into the like big ball of a party, and what gives her away is like the you know, the Dalmatians. It's the first appearance of the Dalmatians in here, you know. They start shouting. So there's a big like scene inside the ball where like, you know, Estella is running away from Dalmatians, you know. She even comes to the stage where they have like a catwalk expose, you know, and she kind of dodges the Dalmatians, you know. She runs around the whole vicinity. She ends up coming outside to see like where the Baroness and her mother are, and the Dalmatians actually like jump over. So like there's this like kind of grass like where Estella goes to hide. Dalmatians jump over and they go towards where the Baroness and the mother is, and the mother actually gets pushed over the cliff, by the Dalmatians and falls to her death. It's kind of despair in Estella's face as a kid, like, my mother's gone and it was my fault. And she's basically, an orphan, so escapes to there. And once she gets to that part in London, she meets the young version of like Horace and Jasper. And the film like skips from 10 years. You meet Estella, now you meet her, now she's in her early 20s. Estella, she had this like kind of dream to be like, she wanted to make like the best fashion across like, not even just UK in the world, so Jasper, knowing her drive, she tried to gets her like a job position in the Liberty department store in West London. I forgot to mention, this was done in the 70s, in that punk rock kind of era. She's working inside Liberty, working as a cleaner. Got like, man, I could feel like the emotions, because just being on the bottom of the hierarchy, you get your brush, wipe, yes sir, no sir, clock in, then check out, go back home, next day it happens. And that is where your life can be. And I could see that. And she was trying to speak to one supervisor of the store, this jolly guy. Estella tried to get a word with him. He would just say, get back to work, I'm busy. That was the status, because of her position of like the bottom of the bottom. A guy of his establishment doesn't have time for someone who's beneath him. Even if she has these ambitions, even if she has the talent, he couldn't care less. He just says like, go get this clean. One night in the film, she's cleaning at night to clean the front of the store. Public goes, she actually falls asleep and drunk, and she actually redesigns one of the mannequins, for the front display, she designs all of it, puts a lot of color, and she changes it. And she wakes up to find Jasper and Horace, and she was fucking like smashed. Wakes up, and that piece of trash supervisor gets her. He's like so ready just to fire her. Then Emma Thompson's character, the Baroness, comes in and she sees it. She sees like the fashion Estella makes, and she likes it. She's very impressed. She doesn't really show it, that kind of like, She's just like, you have talent. Then one of the associates, Andrew Young's character, he gives her like one of the business cards. So just by a stroke of faith, she's able to kind of just leave her bullshit cleaning job, which is going nowhere, and she gets her position with the Baroness. Midway through, once she's like there as pretty much as like her PA, Baroness, she sees such promise in her, and you'll see why later on. She really is more like close with her, kind of like a mentor kind of relationship, And it gets to the scene where I forgot to mention, there's like this big necklace which is shown from the early scenes when Estella is a kid. Her mother had this like big jewelry that was passed. She has that. When she grows up and now she's working aside with the Baroness, she finds out that the Baroness of Thompson has that necklace in her possession. So she kind of puts it together now that it was the Baroness who wanted to kill, her mother. I was heard the story because, the Baroness doesn't know who Estella is. So that was the one who aided my mother to like fall to plummet to her death. So she comes up now with this scheme like, fuck this like fashion designer dream. I just want to get even. I want to get that revenge. We need to get that necklace back. So they both go in their respective positions to kind of infiltrate. Decides to get that necklace. And this is the first time Estella comes in with the Cruella design. And this was just a way to kind of distract them, so like Horace and Jasper could go inside the safe and retrieve that necklace. But sadly, that doesn't. So it's like here she finds out, because like once she comes in as Cruella, she makes like such a big splash. To try like upstage the Baroness, because that's what Baroness really hates. She believes she's numero uno. No one can create such grand fashion as me, and no one can be on a level. You understand? So when Cruella comes in and her designs are like, the cream of the crop, there's a lot of like envious. She doesn't want to be upstage. So things start to fall together. It changes from so many times in the story where like Estella in the original, she just wants to be that big fashion, fashion template. She wants to be like a brand, like I can make the best fashion. It slowly goes on to retrieving the necklace, and then it goes to a revenge story. Like she wants to get revenge because she believes she was responsible for killing her mother, so it turns into a revenge. So Estella's plan is like, because she was working as Estella in the day and then Cruella at night. She would go to work, see all the designs and that, and she would find a way, like on her lunch break, she would design her stuff to go out at night and just really kind of stage anytime like the Baroness was out. Present the most grand, like, extreme, like hyperbole, extreme design, which got the whole media talking. Who is Cruella? Who is this? Doing all these amazing designs, and this really got under Baroness's skin because I don't think a competitor like this never showed up in the past. As this is happening, like Jasper and Horace can see that Estella is slowly transforming. When they're at the start, it's like they're really like a family because they could relate. They were all orphans, they're pretty much alone, and they're all kids, so we gotta like really stick together like glue. As it starts to go on, and Cruella, Estella's on this revenge story, and she's slowly, transforming to Cruella full time. She doesn't have like really time for Jasper and Horace. It's just like they are to-do men. You go do this, you go do that. They become henchmen, and this really kind of pisses off Jasper because it's like, man, we took you in, we were a team, and now she just wants to be this kind of single soul leader. The Baroness infiltrates like the home of Jasper and. Jasper, Horace, and Cruella, the one they were from a kid to an adult, because she finds out, she deduced that like they're both the same. So she tries to take her out, there's a big like exchange, of like, you kind of like, you won't get away with this, and like, I just did. And she uses a light to kind of burn the building, the abandoned building they were staying at. And presumably, Estella is gone, saved by Mark Strong's character, who was working underneath the Baroness, and informs her, which was the biggest shock I never ever saw in this film. Biggest plot twist is that necklace, that was a key that gave her, like a possession to her birth records, and it showed that the Baroness was in fact Estella, Cruella de Vil's mother, not the mother that's shown in the early parts of the film. That was the maid who was working in that mansion that belonged to the Baroness. And seeing this is when she finds out and she leaves, she takes like this kind of like moped and she rides to where fountain, where she would always kind of go there and like kind of speak to her mother's spirit, So she went there like as Cruella now, and after knowing the truth and still saying that like even biologically, like the Baroness's mother is her mother, like she will never forget the maid who raised her up. You understand? And I really love the way the camera really zooms in, because you really see the destruction that all this kind of new knowledge caused her. Jasper and Horace got sent to Jove. They got sent to prison. With the info Cruella has now, she just wants to get straight out vengeance, So there is she views it in disguise because now she's all in the media, They know Estella and Cruella are the same, and like the police are out for her. She actually goes at night and breaks Jasper and Horace out of jail. Even though he breaks them out of the jail, they're not really too inclined with being Cruella, because the way she's treated them is just basic like henchmen, just to focus on her, goals, doesn't really care like what happens to them, So after, she really kind of breaks down to like, I need you, we are family, like this biological woman, Baroness, she needs to be stopped. We have to get even. So they come up together for the final scheme. That's where they go to that same mansion, in the early film. Like they have this big charity ball, like the Baroness knows now that Cruella didn't die when she torched her place, and she's just on the lookout. She instructs all the security to be on their extra diligence today. What happens is a lot of the guests, they have these Cruella disguise, they have the white black trademark hair, so she can't really tell who Cruella is. So she's there inside the big party, and she changes from Cruella back to Estella. And there's a real kind of like throwback scene to the beginning of where she's near the cliff just like her mother was, and now the Baroness is. So she's able to get the Baroness out of the Pioneer Stella, come to one like kind of final confrontation. What I love so much is they didn't use too much dialogue to kind of express like the disgust, you know, that really Cruella has for the Baroness. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, you can see it, and you can see the Baroness, she kind of puts this act like of sorrow. You know, you are my daughter, you know, I wasn't ready to have a child, it was an accident, you know. So she's trying to kind of play her, and even Estella actually says like, you know, if you come closer, because Baroness tries to come to kind of warmth to give her a hug, and Stella's like, you know, because she knows how vindictive this bitch can be. You know, she doesn't give a fuck if it's her own blood. You know, she just wants to do what's to get ahead. She's like, you know, if you come here, you're gonna push me off the cliff. And she's like, oh heavenly no, I would never do that. And then as they kind of, you know, recline, you know, they give a hug together, you think for a small bit that, you know, the Baroness wouldn't be crazy to push her own daughter, but she does, you know. And it just so happened like the whole audience, everyone who was in that booth saw her push her over, you know. And it just so luckily like Estella kind of used that to kind of fake her death. It falls down, Cruella, you know, she actually had like a parachute made out of dress. Horace actually meets her down with a boat to kind of save her, you know. Baroness gets arrested, you know, you know, she loses everything, and because as Estella was her biological daughter, she inherited the fortune because she had no other, you know, she hated to have children, you know, as she said, she only wanted to be, there was one, you know what I mean? So like, because she was out of the picture, she inherited the fortune. The final closing scenes is you see like a grave stone which it says Estella, you know, and you know, saying like that person is gone, you know, and she fully embraces like Cruella. And you know, the closing scenes of her last like kind of speech in this is like, let's get to work, you know, which ends like the Cruella film, leading on to like where it would go like with the Dalmatians. As I said, like this film took place in the 70s, so like this is a film that the music is played every single beat, you know. There's never really like long dragged out scenes without music, always playing back to back to back, you know. And I kind of loved it because I felt like it really said that this is the 70s and this is like that kind of punk revolution, you know. You really get this, you know, from this film. Like you have Nina Simone's like Feeling Good, have like A Whole Lot of Love by Tina Turner, some tracks from Freddie Mercury. This film really spoke to me, but I came to watch this film at the early impressions I had was this is gonna have to deal with Dalmatians, you know. Even though it's an origin story, I was like, in some shape or form they're gonna like include like the Dalmatians, like this is gonna be about that, you know, because that's what Cruella de Vil is mostly recognized from. The twist and the way this film kind of comes from the sideways was so unexpected, you know. That scene where she destroys that whole display, present display area, you know, for when the public see, you know, the garments and the clothes they have, you know, and that links her up to Baroness. It changes everything, and I could really identify with that, of just like, you know, living that Monday life as so many others, you know, in UK, and not able to just kind of like rock the boat, like let's just try something different to kind of change the position we are in now. Because as I'm saying this, I was, like I said with this, I was playing that sensible role, you know, coming to these roles. Yes sir, okay, I'll come in early, okay, I'll do overtime, you're the boss, you're doing all of that. It got me nowhere until I just said, F this, I'm gonna bounce, I'm gonna take a risk, and now I'm living my best life, living the only life. I also really love the whole kind of rags to riches story, starting point. Those scenes when you see Estella like cleaning in that Liberty store, you know, cleaning all the trash, you know, she putting in the clock-in card and to clock out. And when she throws the trash and it opens and it falls down on her. Before that they were doing Thievery. It's like the song, you know, started from the bottom and now we here. Because of her drive and because of her never say die attitude, she got there. She finally got to the end. No matter how she did it, she ended up getting the air. to the mansion at the end. It shows really like how a lot of these people who were at the bottom don't give a fuck about them and they made it to the top. I think they gotta have this kind of obsessive quality. Like, you gotta want it so much you're willing to fucking die for this. And that's one thing I could really relate to Estella in this, being that person who no one give a damn to appearing on The Sun. RichManZ would be giving it a 4 out of 5. Going to Emma's portrayal, you know, she had the English accent down. She was very believable, you know, in those scenes where she felt despair for her mother. Even the kid who played Estella, you know, and again, as I mentioned, like, you know, you see the progression of where she goes. You know, it's very layered, you know, of where she becomes, you know, Estella, just trying to make a name for herself, to, you know, trying to retrieve her what's hers, to trying to get, like, you know, so even with her biological mother, you know. And that twist, I really loved it because I didn't see it coming. You know, I really thought that was her mother at the beginning, you know, who was later turned out to be the maid. And you know, it turns out like Emma Thompson was the, you know, the bitch ass mother from the beginning, you know. So the actors, you know, they do great. As I said, I really like the music, you know, that they play it back to back. I could see some people, maybe from some side, they may not like it, you know, because again, you know, not everybody likes period pieces. Maybe not everybody's a fan of the 70s, you know. But some people may not dig the music that is at that time, and especially that they play it consistent throughout this film from the beginning to the end. I thought this film was very inspiring. The Baroness, man, she put the E in evil, man. Vindictive, sinister, and you can see that's where, now that you, from what you know now, that's Cruella's biological mother, that's the traits that she later gets, that you will see in the, like, you know, the Glenn Close portrayal. Finding it difficult to compare like her portrayal to Glenn Close portrayal in the 1996 and the 2000 version, because it is two completely like universes, you know what I mean. One's playing the, you know, like the young 20s, and I believe in the Glenn Close portrayal, she's probably like a middle-aged woman, you know. So it would be nice to see like the sequel to Cruella, when she actually interacts with the Dalmatians more, you know, and see like that, you know, where that goes on from there. And then I think it will be compared. But folks, that is my review of 2021's Disney live action film Cruella. Please tell me what you felt of this film in the comments section. You know, tell me what you feel about like live action Disney movies in total, and you know, tell me what you felt about, like, you know, Emma Stone playing Cruella, Emma Thompson playing the main villain, and the other supporting characters. And guys and girls, make sure as well, like I said, if you really love these reviews, I have a Patreon. That's right, Richie Rich has a Patreon. Check that out. If you love these movie reviews, message me. I got some time. I'm in Mexico City. I can drop these reviews. Bam, bam, pop. So yeah, stay tuned for more upcoming reviews, which, trust me, which will be coming very soon. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, it's peace to, you know the rest. Cruella de Vil.